Welcome back to CWM University, where we learn together, and we're on tip 16. Tip 16, strategic seating. We want to make sure that we have the option for free seating. Our seating mirrors our instruction, and finally that allows movement around in the classroom. What I would do at the beginning of the year for free seating, I would let the students come on in, sit where you want to. And they're like, we don't have assigned seats. I was like, no assigned seats. But what I wanted to see is what students were friends, who was going to talk to who was going to play with who. So I gave them time to be themselves. And then I decided that, okay, maybe you need to move over there. You need to move here. See who got along, who didn't get along, to make a harmonious classroom. Maybe about week 2 or 3, that's when I would start assigning seats. But at first, I just let them sit wherever they wanted to. So they gave me the data and the feedback I needed to figure out who didn't need to be by who. Make sure that your seating mirrors your instruction. So if you're gonna do a lot of partner talking when you teach, and the students should be able to just turn to their partner and then go back to paying attention to the whole group instruction. You don't want to have to talk to a partner and the partner's way over there or across the room. You want to put them somewhere where it is easy for them to talk to each other. So make sure that the seating mirrors whatever activity or whatever type of instruction that you're doing, either for that day or for that school year. And finally, make sure however your seats are arranged that students can easily move throughout the classroom. You do not want students backing their seat up and backing into each other, because that's gonna be a problem, and that's gonna start some chaos, or somebody's gonna bust out laughing thinking it's funny. But make sure that the students have enough room to push their chair back enough to get out the seat, and also that you can move around the room freely to help students as needed. Tip 17, movement. We'll talk about activities, games, and control. There should be some type of movement during your activities in your classroom. Kids cannot sit down for long and be still, and we tell them, sit down, be still, stop moving. But they're not made to do that. One, their attention span is this long, and they just have a lot of energy in their bodies. You don't do well sitting down for long, and the students don't do well for sitting down for long. So provide those opportunities in your activities where the students can move around. Maybe you could post certain number of problems around the classroom and let the students go to the problems and rotate when a timer goes off to each problem and write it down on their paper. Getting up, walking around helps the blood flow, and maybe help them remember some things, just changing the position of how they're learning. Now, doing such an activity does take a little more planning than it would just if the students were sitting at their desk. You can show them or model how the behavior should look before the activity starts. Give very clear instructions before you start that type of activity, and then see how it goes. Now, if it goes away or it doesn't go the way you're thinking it should go, just stop. Adjust the behavior, adjust your expectations, reiterate your expectations, and then give it another try. Also, when you're doing activities that involve movement, I always suggest having a packet with all the problems in it that you can provide to a student, or put all the packets on Google Classroom or something like that, just in case a student can't handle being up and moving around. Then you could just send them back to their desk while everybody else still gets to move around the classroom. We don't want to punish the whole class for one student's behavior or a couple students' behavior. You could just pull them out the group, sit them down, and let them finish their work on their own. I like to incorporate some games. Sometimes what I would do is especially for whole group, if my whole group instruction was long, I would tell the students, okay, we're gonna get through these 3 problems, and if I don't have to fuss at anybody, we're gonna do rock, paper, scissors. Now, for rock, paper, scissors, I would give my students very clear instructions. I would tell them, after we get done with these 3 problems, we're gonna stand up by our desk, and I would show them what rock was, what paper was, what scissors were, because students will come up with all kinds of things. And then I would tell them, go find a partner, and I will call out rock, paper, scissors, shoot. They'll shoot. And I tell them, if you win, you stay standing up. If you lose, you have to sit down. And in order for this game to go well, everybody has to be truthful. And of course, if somebody said they didn't lose, then sometimes I will have to figure that out. Or I just make them redo it and see who won. If you tie, you play again. So then we'll just keep going until we have a winner. I'll write the winner's name on the board. And then we'll do 3 more problems, and we'll do another round of rock, paper, scissors. 3 more problems, another round of rock, paper, scissors. And then at the end, those 3 winners will go out to see who was going to be the champion of the rock, paper, scissors. No, I didn't give them any type of reward for being a winner for rock, paper, scissors. I just told them, okay, you're the winner today. And usually they were fine with it. They just want to say they beat the whole class. Now, you do have to keep in mind that when you playing rock, paper, scissors, they can only shoot rock, paper, or scissors. Because somebody will say, I'm gonna do a blowtorch, and I took out 3 groups. Just make sure your instructions are clear, and just come up with little games to break up those long whole group instructions to change the position of the students, get their blood flowing, get them moving a little bit, and so then they can come back and focus on what you're trying to teach them. Finally, when there is movement in your classroom, you do have to let go of some of the control. You gotta let it go. Give clear expectations, model the behavior you expect when the students are moving around your classroom, and let them have some fun. Because when the students are having fun, they're not worried about trying to tear your classroom up or do things they shouldn't be doing. So let go of some of the control, have some movement in your activities, let them play some games. And if the game is not going as you planned, you can just stop game, mid-game. Everybody freeze. Let's talk about some behaviors I'm seeing that I do not like. And if these behaviors do not change, we're gonna go back to our seats. Unfreeze. Simple as that. Just let them know your expectations. Stop it if you need to stop it, and then you can restart it. But don't just give up if something goes awry. Reflect on what's going wrong and see what you can do to mitigate that, and then let the students continue back to their activity. Tip 18, transitions. We'll talk about the enter and exit transitions, transitioning through activities, and the transitions that happen within the classroom. But just make sure that there are systems in place where students can safely enter your classroom and exit your classroom when they're transitioning. The transition of activities, you want to go over before you start the activity what the students should be doing before the activity, during the activity, and after activity. So for example, let's go back to putting the problems around on the wall. Just say I had 8 problems on the wall, and I'm going to put the students in groups. So I'm going to number the students off by 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And go again until I have all my students numbered off. I will do this twice because students don't pay attention sometimes. And then I will have them, when I'm giving you your number, write your number at the top of your paper so you'll know what number you should be. So after that, I will tell them, I'm going to call your number, and I'll tell them what poster the numbers are around the room. And once I call your number, you're going to go to that poster and you're going to stand there. And then I'm going to give everybody 1 minute to work the problem. After that 1 minute, you're going to go to the next poster. You're going to rotate clockwise. Of course, we need to go over clockwise because most of the students only see digital clocks. So we're going to rotate clockwise. We will continue rotating until everyone has gotten to every problem or the time has run out. During this time when you're working on problems, I expect you to keep your hands, feet, other objects, and your unkind words to yourself. So try to set those clear expectations for these transitions. Once we have made it to the last problem, I will dismiss you by your number. So I will call group 1, go back to your seat. Group 2, go back to your seat. Just so the students will know how the whole activity looks and how the transitions are expected to look as well. Now, the first time you do this in your class, it may look a little rough, but the more you practice it, the students will know exactly what's expected of them, and you won't have to say rotate. They'll know when the timer goes off, everybody rotates. They'll know when it's done, you call 1, 2, 3, they'll know to go back to their seats. But if any time the activity is not working, stop, freeze, tell everybody to freeze. And adjust the behaviors right then while they're happening. Not tomorrow, but directly then during that activity. And of course, if one of your students is struggling with the transitions and just can't get it right and just want to play, have that packet ready for them at their seat. Lastly, the students should know how to transition within the classroom. I need to tell the students, how are you supposed to go get tissue? After you get tissue, what are you expected to do? You're expected to go back to your seat. You're expected to get the tissue, use the tissue, throw it in the trash. We don't want to assume because the students are in middle school or in late elementary that they just know what to do. Yeah, think about it. Students go to multiple classes during the day, or they have had multiple teachers, and different teachers expect different things. So let them know what those transitions look like in your room. Model that behavior for them. And not only should you go through your transitions at the beginning of the year, but also after Christmas and spring break. Because some reason when students get away from school for more than a day or two, it seems like their whole brain gets reset and they just forget like the rules. Not every single student, but it seems like it happens to a lot of them. So it's okay to have to go over your transitions and what you want that to look like in your classroom. Again, especially if it's not the beginning of the year. Just as a reminder that we would not have chaos in this class after spring break. We know how that goes. Tip number 19, entry and exit routines. We want to provide examples, we do want to practice, and we want to correct the behaviors that we do not want to see immediately. So what do you want it to look like when students enter your room and exit your room? Can they all come in all at one time? Can they run out? Does the bell dismiss them? You have to go over what you expect in your classroom. So for me, when the students enter my classroom, I had to be at the door and they have to come in one by one. No pushing, no running, no playing, because I would stop you and you have to go to the end of the line. And then when it's time to go, I would dismiss them by tables. I know one time I might have been helping a teacher set up something in the classroom and my door was open, but no adult was in there. And I come to my class and it's students in my class and I say, y'all, look around. Is there an adult in my class? And I'm standing outside. And it was like, no. I said, well, you have no business to be in my classroom. So I made them all pack, get all their stuff, and come right back out. And I made them line up in the hallway, and we came in one by one as I greeted them. And I told them, once we got in the classroom, that you do not enter my room. I don't care if the door is open or not, if there's not an adult in there. Because I told them it's a safety thing. I want to make sure that you're safe, and I'm safe at all times. Sometimes you have to correct their behavior right then. Yes, I could have let it go and just told them about it in the class, and then moved on with class. But making them get their stuff, come back out, line up, and go back in, they'll remember that. Next time I'm not going in there when the teacher's not in there, because I'm not doing this again. I will also, for when it's time to leave, I would tell the students, the bell is just for me. The bell is just to remind me that it's time to move to the next class. It doesn't dismiss you. And in elementary, I would just say, oh, it's 10:15. It's time to go to fourth period. That's for me to know. That doesn't mean that you start packing up your stuff. You have to remind them that. And then once they're packed up, I would just, depend on the class. Sometimes some class could, I say, okay, guys, y'all have a good day. And they could just get up, push their chair in, and walk out. And then some classes, I'll try that at the beginning of the year, and they get to a want to push and run and move. It just depends on the maturity of the students. But I would start them off as calling table 1, you may go. Table 2, you may go. And to let them know that my expectation was for them to push their chair under the table if we had tables that year. Because of a safety reason, I explained it to them that everybody needs to be able to move freely without getting hurt. If a student tried to leave without pushing their chair in, I sent them back. So just make sure that you practice these routines consistently, and you always want to correct when the routine is not running smoothly. And if you see something that's not working, freeze. We got to fix this. Don't talk about it tomorrow. That behavior needs to be corrected right then and right there. Tip 20, accessible materials. We want to make sure that we have ample materials, they're in a good location, and we'll replace our materials that they are student focused. I know when I taught elementary, we'll do the buckets and we make sure that it has enough pencils, glue, markers, scissors for everybody to use them. But that quickly changed when I got to middle school because I tried to do the buckets with the supplies and my supplies started to disappear. I'm not sure why you need a ruler outside of math class, maybe for science, I'm not sure, but they would just disappear. So when I started teaching in middle school, I realized that I had to change the location of my materials. I had to make sure it was somewhere that was student focused, like where would the students be able to get to these locations, this material the quickest. So I have buckets of glue, buckets of scissors, buckets of rulers, but I have them maybe put up. Then when it's time to use them, I'll pull them out to make sure the students can get to them easily. You don't want to be so focused on, oh, I would like the glue over here, but is it easy for your students to get to without bothering you or bothering anybody else in the classroom? Now, one thing I could not keep enough of was pencils. I'm not sure, I don't care what pencil system I use, could not keep enough pencils. So I started collecting pencils that were left in the classroom on the floor or in the hallway. As long as they didn't have bite marks or chewed up ends, I would collect them in a basket. The students knew where the basket was and they knew that they could use the pencil, just return it at the end of class. So I would have a lot of pencils in a basket. One year, my pencils was just disappearing. And I'm like, I've been doing this year after year and I didn't have an issue. I would usually end the year with a whole bunch of pencils that I could use for next year. So my pencils were disappearing, but that was one problem I just didn't have time to try to figure out. I'm like, okay, well, if they have a pencil, they have one. If I have one to give them extra, I would. But at the end of the year, one of my students, he comes up to me and was, I have a end of the year gift for you. And I was like, oh, that's sweet. So he had it in a little bag and he handed it to me. I opened that bag. Guess what was in that bag? Pencils. He had been collecting the pencils all school year. I thought it was hilarious. He was collecting them so he could give them to me as, I guess, a prank or a joke at the end of the school year. I was mad. But I couldn't be mad at him really because to me it was hilarious. Because what made you think about collecting all these pencils, holding them, and then giving them to your teacher at the end of the year? So the materials are for the students. Just make sure that you have enough to share among the students. Make sure they're in a good location for the students. And if they're in a good location for the students, it is student focused. Now, after getting that bag of pencils at the end of the school year, I started telling my students, whatever I provide in this classroom stays in this classroom. If it doesn't belong to you, it doesn't leave this classroom. But those are just things I had to learn throughout my teaching career that I didn't think to have to tell the students. I thought you automatically knew. Your teacher gave it to you, it stays in your teacher classroom. Well, that's not true. These are lessons I learned. So we have made it to tip 20. We have gone over already tips 1 through 15. I'll try to place them somewhere on the screen so you can get to those and watch those as well if you haven't. Thank you for watching. If you have any tips that you would like to share with teachers that help your classroom run smoothly and manage behavior, please share those in the comments. If you have any questions, please put those in the comments as well. Make sure you like it and share this video. And y'all already know. Until next time, peace out.